Welcome back, Husker fans. This is Cornfield Confessional. Let me know what you guys think of my new podcast name, Cornfield Confessional. I got some feedback that Huskers and KC wasn't the best, so I updated it. Let me know. All right, let's turn our attention to Saturday's Big Ten matchup. Nebraska heads on the road to face the Minnesota Golden Gophers. Another tough conference test for the Huskers. Minnesota's record doesn't jump off the page, 10-9, 3-5 in the conference, but they can be dangerous at home. So let's start off by breaking down their personnel. So leading team leaders for Minnesota, so it starts with Cade Tyson, their guard. He can score pretty much at any level from 3-point. Off the dribble, can create his own shots, 20.5 points per game, 5.5 rebounds, 2.6 assists. He's a good player. One of the leading scorers in the Big Ten. Jalen Crocker-Johnson, second leading scorer, 14.2 points per game, 6.8 rebounds. He's their physical presence inside. And then their other guard, Langston Reynolds, 10.8 points per game, 4 rebounds, 4 assists. So he's the distributor. Cade Tyson, more on him. He was a North Carolina and Belmont transfer. Did 2 years at Belmont, had great stats for them. Transferred to North Carolina, didn't play very many minutes, and then recently transferred to Minnesota and has been dominating. Let's look at his career stats so you can see really good numbers for Belmont. 13.5 points, 16 points per game. Then only played about 8 minutes per game for North Carolina last season. But been crushing it for the Gophers. 50% from the field. And he's their top 3-point shooter, 39%. Let's look at his recruiting profile. So, highly touted transfer prospect, 91 overall rated, 4-star recruit in the transfer portal. So he's was a highly touted guy. Big pickup for Minnesota this season. They've got a lot of transfers on this team. Next guy, their second leading scorer, Jalen Crocker-Johnson, transfer from Little Rock. He did his freshman year at Little Rock and then transferred to Colorado State. He's averaging on the season 14 points, 7 rebounds, and almost 2 assists. But he's their physical presence inside. As a transfer, he was a 3-star, 89 overall rating, coming out of Northern Colorado. 6'8", 240 pounds, very similar size to Jared Garcia. That'll be a matchup to watch between those two. Let's look at his career stats. So at Little Rock, 9 points his freshman year. Then at Colorado State, he averaged 9 points last year. So he's made a significant jump in scoring this season. Their last third leading scorer is Langston Reynolds. He is a transfer as well from Northern Colorado. But you see his numbers this season, 11 points per game, 4 rebounds, 4 assists, shooting a really high field goal percentage, 56% from the field. Let's pull up. I guess I don't have his stats, but he was a transfer from Northern Colorado. So their top 3 scorers came from the transfer portal. Their projected starting lineup. So this is just from their last game. So their last game against Ohio State and their loss, they started Langston Reynolds at point guard, Isaac Azuma at the other guard, Cade Tyson, Bobby Durkin, and Jalen Crocker-Johnson. So a lot of, they've had a lot of different rotations, a lot of different lineups. They've had some injuries, but this team, they're top heavy with those 3 scorers, Langston Reynolds, Cade Tyson, and Crocker-Johnson, all from the portal. First-year head coach. So they're kind of trying to figure out their groove. Let's look at their schedule. So they got blown out by Missouri early in the season. And they had 3 losses in a row earlier in the year as well. San Francisco, Stanford, and Santa Clara all beat them. Then they somehow beat Indiana when Indiana was ranked in the top 25. Got slaughtered by Purdue. Beat some bottom feeders. Then they beat Iowa and Northwestern. And then they've really had some hard-fought battles their last 4 games. 4 losses in a row, but they were all right down to the wire. See, their most recent against Ohio State, lost in overtime. Crocker Johnson's been on a tear the last 3 games, 26, 22, and 20. So, again, it's the Big Ten. No game's going to be easy. But let's get into Minnesota's strengths. So, everything Minnesota does is offensively starts with Cade Tyson. He's the Gophers' go-to scorer, one of the more versatile guards in the Big Ten. He can score at all 3 levels, off the dribble, off catch and shoot, and in transition. When Minnesota needs points late in the shot clock, they usually get it to him. Elite scorer in Cade Tyson, one of the top scorers in the Big Ten this season. And then you've got physicality and rebounding. Jalen Crocker Johnson on the inside. He's a key piece on their front court. He gives them physicality, consistent rebounding. He's just a reliable interior presence. And he's not just a cleanup guy. He can score on the block. He's been one of their most consistent all-around contributors this season. They've got a scrappy defense, a solid defense. They're only allowing 68 points per game. That's top 60 in the country, top 4 in the Big Ten. So they're going to scrap. They're going to try to get turnovers. But that's really what's kept them in games is their defense. Weaknesses for Minnesota. Really, it's been their shooting inconsistency. They're only shooting 45% from the field. That's 179th nationally, bottom of the Big Ten. And from 3-point, they're only shooting right around 33%. That's 243rd nationally. So they've had inconsistencies shooting the basketball. And really, it's been inconsistency outside of Tyson. When he's bottled up or has an off night, they can struggle to generate efficient scoring. Their next weakness is just overall offensive rhythm and depth. Their bench production's been limited. That puts pressure on Tyson and Crocker Johnson to really go off every night. And against teams that are balanced like Nebraska, they especially struggle. They rely heavy on transfers, man. We talked about it. Top 3 scorers are all transfers, and they're only scoring 72.8 points per game. That's 275th nationally. So this is probably the worst offense that we've faced all season. Their next weakness is their defensive rebounding. They only average 24 defensive rebounds per game. That's 233rd nationally. So Nebraska has an opportunity to get second chance points. I know, thanks to you guys in the comments educating me, Nebraska by design doesn't go after offensive boards often. It helps us in transition defense. But I still think Sam Hoiberg and Price Sanford and some other guys can crash the glass and work to get some offensive boards, get us second chance opportunities, because they really have struggled on the glass, especially in Big Ten play. So let's get into matchup keys for this one. So really the first big key is Braden Frager's absence. Jared Garcia is going to have to play more minutes because of it. He held his own in their last game. Thought he rebounded well, thought he defended well. He scored 5 points, showed capabilities there, but his lack of confidence to score is what makes me nervous. Against Michigan, it'll really be interesting to see this play out. I think we'll be okay in this game, but it'll be interesting to see if we have any issues with our offensive efficiency and flow without Frager in the lineup. Spacing and scoring balance. Nebraska, controlling the pace, winning the efficiency battle has been their heart and soul. If they can move the ball, avoid turnovers, make Minnesota defend multiple scoring threats, they can get them out of their comfort zone and pull away. Minnesota needs to limit turnovers and rebound better. That's going to be key for them. They got to slow the game down, win the rebounding battle. They got to make this a physical half-court game, give themselves a chance to stay competitive. And it's tough to do that against Nebraska with so many different scoring options. So the last matchup, key, can the Gophers slow the pace? Nebraska likes to go fast in transition, knock down open threes, keep the pace sped up. And Minnesota is going to have to try to slow that down. And it'll be difficult for them to do, especially with their difficulty getting rebounds. So my prediction for this one, Nebraska 78, Gophers 64. I think the Huskers will pull away in the second half again. I think it's going to be a lower scoring game. We're on the road. It's tough to win in Williams Arena. They're a good defensive team. It'll be a scrappy game, but I think we get it done. I think Sanford will hit some important threes again for us. With Frager's absence, I think Jared Garcia will play well. I think, he'll have around 8 points. I think he'll nab, 5+ rebounds. I think he's going to really show that he can compete, especially against, middle, lower tier Big Ten teams. I think the big test for him will be against Michigan, but I think he'll have a good game in this one. I think Cale Jacobson will put up some more points because he'll have to play more minutes. But I think it's going to be a close game until the last 5 minutes. Nebraska's 3-point shooting and turnover, our ability to force turnovers is going to be the difference, allow us to pull away late by 14. All right, so let's move to Husker football. We've got some updates. First things first, I want to show you guys the updated rankings for our 2026 recruiting class. And I mentioned I was disappointed. It was an underwhelming transfer portal haul. Got a lot of guys, but just not guys that are as highly rated as we wanted, especially trying to get over the hump and compete for a Big Ten title, which is going to be very difficult next season with our schedule. But you see our overall rank 80th in the country, which is the worst we've had in I don't even know how long. Since I've been following recruiting, we haven't had a recruiting class ranked this poorly. Composite rank 105th. That's just including all the other platforms, recruiting services. So that's even worse. And then the transfer portal ranking was 37th. So that's really in large part to the size of the class. We brought in 16 transfer portal guys, 15 or 16. Hang on, let me look real quick. Validate that. I think it was 16. Okay. So 16. Yep. So that's really the large reason we got that rating of 37th overall in the transfer portal, because we only got one 4-star, and that was Brendan Black, the guard. So very disappointed. Matt Rule, watched his interview on Husker Sports Nightly, and he's always making excuses, trying to toot his own horn and act like things are better than they are. But this is not good, you guys. I mean, when you lose your starting quarterback, Dylan Raiola, which is a big loss, they went out and got Calandria, which I like, but with all of the issues on this team this past season, we didn't go out and get any dominant defensive linemen. We got a bunch of middle of the pack 3-stars that had middle or little playing time at their previous schools. Stats weren't great. We didn't get a running back, which is mind-boggling. Matt Rule talked about his confidence in the running back room. That makes no sense to me. Didn't get a tight end. And Lindenmeyer was very underwhelming this past season. So but really for me, it's the lack of high-rated guys. We're Nebraska. We're a football school. We've got money per Matt Rule. Why didn't we go out and get higher-rated guys? This is embarrassing. 80th overall in recruiting rankings, we've never, in my lifetime following recruiting, we've never been that low in the rankings. I mean, Matt Rule's always had until this year a top 25 class. Hell, even Mike Riley and Bo Pelini had top 25 classes for the most part. This is not good. We hoped that the transfer portal would bring up our ranking, and it didn't. It was an underwhelming signing class. And to make things worse, Andy Berberia, who I thought was going to be one of our best commitments from the JUCO ranks, the number one JUCO defensive tackle in America, decommitted and committed to Clemson. God, that sucks. I thought he'd be a beast. You know, I did my top 5 players in the recruiting class and who I thought would produce, and he was like 3rd on my list. Thought he could be a disruptor and really be a good player for us, and it just sucks that he decommitted last minute and went to Clemson. That's a big pickup for them, but it just, it keeps getting worse for Matt Rule. He's taking a lot of heat, as he should be. It's going to be a tough 2026, guys. We've got a hard-ass schedule. I'll actually just pull it up for you now so you can get a look at how difficult this is going to be. So we start off the season at home against Ohio, and then Bowling Green. First 3 games should be wins. Ohio, Bowling Green, North Dakota. Then we've got Indiana at home. My God, they're going to be like preseason top 5. Then we've got Maryland. They haven't done the exact order of these games. We just know, the home and away, but this isn't going to be the exact order. The first 3 games are right. We start off with Ohio, Bowling Green, and North Dakota. Home games, we've got Indiana at home. That helps, but that's still going to be a tough one against Indiana. Maryland, you never know. We've lost against them, and we shouldn't. Ohio State will be at home, but they're so much more talented than us. Washington at home, and then the road games. At Illinois, who's beat our ass every year lately. Iowa, goddamn Iowa. At Michigan State. At Oregon, got to travel to Eugene. And at Rutgers. That's never an easy game for us. So, I mean, just looking at this with our roster and the guys that we picked up, we'll start 3-0. We're going to get beat by Indiana for sure. We're going to get beat by Ohio State. I think we'll lose to Illinois on the road. We'll lose to Iowa, and we'll lose to Oregon. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 losses that I'm guaranteeing already. So at best, in my mind, it's a 7-5 season. But we'll just have to wait and see. So that's all I've got today. Nebraska basketball keeping us happy and keeping us, confident and positive, because football just keeps disappointing. But Husker basketball again this Saturday at Minnesota. It's an 11 a.m. tip-off, so an early one. Make sure to tune in and root for the Huskers. Make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoy my content, guys. I've really been cranking out videos. Please engage, leave comments. Really enjoy when you guys engage with me and give me your thoughts and opinions. Hopefully the Huskers can keep the streak going, win their 24th straight game. It'll be on FS1, don't forget. And that's all I've got. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. And like always, go Big Red, baby.